If you think your sibling is brutally honest, wait until you meet my sister, Lauren. I'm Emily, 28, working in marketing here in Seattle. Lauren's 32, a retail manager who proudly calls herself the most straightforward person alive. What she really means is that she's mastered the art of being cruel under the excuse of being honest. She can't walk into a room without picking someone apart. At family dinners, she'll look at you, tilt her head, and announce things no one asked for, like, "You've put on weight," or "That haircut makes you look like you gave up halfway." She once looked me dead in the eye and said, "Your skin looks like a chewed-up cockroach." Everyone went silent for a moment, then went back to eating as if nothing happened. That's what our family does, pretend it's fine. My parents sigh, my uncle changes the topic, and my grandma just mutters something about Lauren always being like that. Somehow the rest of us have learned to tune her out, like background noise at a restaurant you can't escape. The only one who still tries is Aunt Susan. She's the kind of person who still believes people can change if you just keep showing them love. Every holiday, she insists on inviting Lauren, saying, "Maybe this time will be different." It never is. But watching her hope year after year, I almost envy her, because the rest of us have stopped believing that Lauren is capable of kindness. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories, they're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. It was supposed to be a perfect Saturday. Aunt Susan had been planning Tommy's 5th birthday for weeks. She'd saved up from her night shifts at the hospital, booked an arcade and bowling place that looked straight out of a kid's dream: neon lights, colorful balloons, the smell of buttered popcorn, and the sound of pinballs clinking in the background. You could practically taste the happiness in the air. Tommy was beaming, dressed in a tiny dinosaur t-shirt, running between the games with his little friends. Susan was glowing too, tired but proud. She wasn't the kind of mom who could afford fancy parties, but she made sure everything she did came from love. She'd baked cupcakes herself, brought homemade juice boxes with names written in marker, and even made a dinosaur piñata out of cardboard and tape. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. It was real. And then Lauren walked in. She was late, of course, wearing heels too high for a kid's party, sunglasses indoors, and a perfume so strong it made the air heavy. In one hand she carried a gift bag, and in the other a flask. Not just any flask, the silver one she bragged about, engraved with "Lauren knows best." First she seemed fine. She hugged Aunt Susan with that fake smile that barely touched her eyes. But after a few sips from her flask, I saw the shift. Her tone sharpened. Her smile turned brittle. "Cute setup," she said, scanning the decorations. "Is this Dollar Tree chic?" Susan laughed softly, trying to brush it off. "It's all from the kids' favorite store. They picked the theme." Lauren snorted. "Yeah, it looks like it." I could feel my stomach nodding. I'd seen this pattern 100 times. The slow unraveling before she started saying what everyone dreaded. Ryan, her boyfriend, was sitting quietly next to me. He was a 3rd-grade teacher, kind to a fault, always trying to see the good in her. He gave me an apologetic glance as if to say, "I know. I'm sorry." The real explosion came when Susan brought out the cake. It was a dinosaur-shaped one from a local supermarket, simple green frosting, little plastic figures on top. Tommy's eyes lit up. The kids started clapping. That's when Lauren decided to speak. Wait, she said loudly, standing up glassy-eyed. "Is this seriously the cake?" The room went quiet. You could hear the soft hum of the arcade machines in the background. "A supermarket cake?" she scoffed. "You couldn't even get a custom one? You're a nurse, not broke. What, was the fondant too expensive? Or maybe you just don't care enough?" Susan froze, still holding the knife. Her smile cracked. Then Tommy, poor little Tommy, looked up at her with tears forming and said, "Mom, you didn't try for me?" It was like the whole room shattered in slow motion. The laughter, the music, the clinking of tokens, all of it faded. Susan knelt beside her son, whispering, "Of course I did, honey, of course I did. But the damage was done." Ryan stood up. His chair screeched against the floor. I'll never forget the look on his face. Not angry, but deeply, heartbreakingly disappointed. "Lauren," he said, voice calm but cutting, "get your stuff. We're leaving." She blinked, confused. "What?" "I was just being honest." He shook his head. "No. You just destroyed a 5-year-old's birthday." Lauren tried to laugh it off, but no one was laughing. Ryan pulled a folded stack of bills from his wallet, $500, and handed it to Aunt Susan. "For the party," he said softly. "She's done enough damage." Lauren's face twisted. "You're leaving me? Over this?" Ryan looked at her, sadness in his eyes. "Over this and everything like this." Then he walked out. Lauren followed him, stumbling, heels clacking against the arcade floor. "Ryan, you can't just Ryan." Her voice echoed between the blinking machines, but he didn't turn back. He kept walking until the automatic doors closed behind him. Everyone in the room was staring, frozen between pity and relief. Tommy's friends whispered to each other, their parents exchanging uncomfortable looks. Susan excused herself to the bathroom, probably to cry in private. I wanted to comfort her, but what could I say? That Lauren didn't mean it? That she was drunk? That she was just being herself? None of that mattered anymore. I felt ashamed, not just of Lauren, but of how long we'd all allowed her to be this way. As I watched her stumble out into the parking lot, still yelling Ryan's name, I thought, this is it. This has to be the moment she realizes she's gone too far. But Lauren never realized anything. A week later, just when things had finally calmed down, Aunt Susan got a knock on her door. It was 8 a.m. She was in her scrubs, getting ready for a shift. On her porch stood 2 people with badges, Child Protective Services. "Ma'am," one of them said, "we received an anonymous report about possible child neglect and exposure to alcohol." Susan's face went pale. "What? That's not true. Who would?" They asked to come in. They looked through the fridge, checked the cabinets, Tommy's room, even the backyard. Tommy sat on the couch, clutching his dinosaur toy, eyes wide with confusion. When they left, they handed Susan a pamphlet. As a precaution, one of them explained, "You'll need to attend a 6-week parenting class. Standard procedure." I remember her calling me afterward, voice trembling. "Emily, someone said I gave Tommy alcohol." I didn't have to think twice. I knew. We all did. Lauren. It had her fingerprints all over it. The spite, the precision, the cowardice of doing it anonymously. She was angry that Ryan had left her. Humiliated that everyone saw her lose control. So she found the most twisted way to hurt the one person who'd always been kind to her. But knowing it was her didn't make it easier. We had no proof. The report was anonymous, the evidence non-existent. Susan was stuck, spending every Saturday in a fluorescent-lit classroom 45 minutes away, sitting through lectures about parenting skills she didn't need, while Tommy asked why his mom had to take classes to be good. Every time I saw them, I felt a mix of anger and helplessness. Anger at Lauren, yes, but also at how the system seemed to reward her cruelty. She'd always hidden behind words. "I'm just being honest. I'm just telling the truth. People are too sensitive." But this wasn't honesty. It was punishment. And the worst part? I think she enjoyed it. Because when I finally saw her again, weeks later at our parents' house, she smiled at me across the table, sipped her wine and said, "So how's Susan's little parenting class going?" That's when I realized this wasn't a phase. This was who my sister had chosen to become. And somehow deep down I knew it was only the beginning. A month after the CPS nightmare, I got a text from an unknown number that simply said, "Hey, it's Ryan. Can we talk?" First, I hesitated. The last time I'd seen him was at the arcade, walking out on my sister while she screamed behind him. But curiosity won. We met for coffee at a quiet place near Pike Street, and the look on his face said everything. Exhaustion, regret, and a touch of fear. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," he began. "For everything. For not seeing it sooner." Before I could reply, he pulled out his phone and showed me a string of screenshots. My stomach turned as I scrolled through them. Dozens of texts from Lauren, all from random prepaid numbers. One read, "Ryan, I'm pregnant. I need help. The baby's yours." Another had a grainy ultrasound picture that looked oddly familiar. Ryan explained he'd reverse searched it, It came from a parenting blog post in 2015. Then came the kicker. I need $3,000 for prenatal care. Please don't tell Emily. I almost laughed, except it wasn't funny. It was delusional. Ryan shook his head. She's been sending messages like this to half her old contacts. She made fake doctor names, fake clinics, fake everything. For a moment, neither of us spoke. It was like watching a slow-motion collapse of someone we once thought could be saved. But Lauren didn't stop there. When the pregnancy scam failed, she found new ways to cause chaos, smarter, colder, more personal. That's when the fake accounts started. The first hit me directly. One Monday morning, my manager called me into her office. She looked uncomfortable, holding a printed email. Emily, someone from your address sent these to a few coworkers, she said carefully. The messages were short, venomous. You're lazy. You dress like a teenager. Everyone knows you're sleeping with the boss. My heart dropped. The signature line even had my company logo. It was me, or rather it looked like me. I had to sit through HR meetings crying while trying to prove I wasn't the one who sent them. They finally traced the IP address, which led to a throwaway email account linked to Lauren's old number. But even then, it wasn't enough for real charges, just family conflict, they said. Next came Uncle Greg. He's a quiet man, an engineer who avoids drama like it's a contagious disease. One morning, he was called into HR after someone reported a racist post from his Facebook profile. Post he never made. It read, "Immigrants ruin everything." It took days to sort out that his account had been cloned, same name, same photos, same friend list. And guess who had been commenting under it? Lauren, leaving little laughing emojis, pretending to support him. My mom wasn't spared either. She's a high school English teacher, the most patient woman alive. One of her colleagues suddenly stopped talking to her. When Mom finally asked why, the woman said, "Because of the text you sent, calling my daughter a waste of tuition." Of course, my mom never sent it. But the message had her exact phrasing style, the kind of thing only a family member would know how to mimic. That's when it hit me. This wasn't random chaos. It wasn't Lauren being impulsive or acting out. It was strategic. She was dissecting our family piece by piece, watching us fall apart and calling it entertainment. By then, we'd stopped making excuses. We stopped saying she's just going through a hard time. It was clear Lauren wasn't spiraling. She was orchestrating. I remember lying awake that night, scrolling through my messages, my email, my social media, checking every account, terrified of what she might do next. It wasn't just chaos anymore. It was targeted cruelty, designed to isolate us, humiliate us, and make us doubt our own sanity. And the worst part was she was getting better at it. It started small, things going missing from my apartment. At first, I thought I was just being forgetful. A lipstick, my old college sweatshirt, a pair of earrings my mom gave me last Christmas. But when my spare car keys disappeared, I knew something was off. That's when I remembered Lauren still had access to our shared Google Calendar from years ago, back when we tried to plan family dinners together. I used it to log work meetings, dentist appointments, even the date I'd be out of town for a client retreat. She knew exactly when my apartment would be empty. I installed a cheap motion camera near my front door. 2 weeks later, the alert popped up on my phone. Movement detected at 3:47 p.m. My hand shook as I opened the video. There she was, or at least a blurred version of her, slipping through my front door with a hood over her head. She moved fast, like someone who knew exactly where things were. I called the police immediately. An officer came by, took my statement, and watched the footage twice. Then he sighed. "I'm sorry, ma'am. It's too blurry to be conclusive. Could be anyone." I wanted to scream. Anyone? Who else would steal a sweater that said, "Emily's 2010 Marathon"? It was like shouting into a void. A week later, things got darker. Aunt Susan called me, her voice trembling. "Lauren showed up at Tommy's school," she said. She told the front desk she was his substitute teacher, and that I'd sent her to pick him up early. My heart nearly stopped. Thankfully, the staff didn't buy it. They said her story didn't match the day's roster and refused to release Tommy. She bolted before security could stop her. The school had already contacted the police, but she'd vanished again. That night, we all gathered at my parents' house. The whole family except Lauren. No one laughed. No one even touched the pie Mom baked. The air felt heavy like a courtroom before sentencing. Dad sat at the head of the table, calm but pale. He's a CFO at a regional bank, a man used to order and documentation. He had 3 binders laid out in front of him, labeled incidents, evidence, and communications. He'd been tracking everything for months. Every text, every fake account, every report filed. Each page was dated with cross-references and notes in the margins. When he flipped one open, I saw rows of neat handwriting. February 12th, anonymous CPS report filed. March 3rd, Emily's workplace email spoofed. March 25th, Uncle Greg's Facebook clone created. April 10th, Lauren seen near Susan's residence. It was chilling. This isn't random, Dad said quietly. It's escalation. She's testing boundaries, and the lack of consequences is fueling her. Mom started crying softly. She's my daughter, she whispered. How do I even process that? No one had an answer. Ryan joined the meeting by video call. He looked hollow, older somehow. You need to protect yourselves, he said. Change passwords. Security cameras. Alert the school. I've seen what she's capable of when she feels cornered. We all nodded, taking notes like survivors of some invisible war. By the end of that night, every device in the house had 2-factor authentication. Every family member had emergency contacts saved. And Dad printed an updated timeline that stretched across the dining table. Photos, dates, red lines connecting one incident to another. I stared at it for a long time, realizing what we'd become. It wasn't a family anymore, I said quietly. It was a crime board. And the worst part was Lauren wasn't done yet. Grandma Olivia's 80th birthday was supposed to be peaceful. A small miracle after months of chaos. She wanted one last family gathering before her knees gave out, as she put it. A simple garden party. Balloons. String lights. Lemon cake. The kind of thing that might have made us feel normal again if only for a day. But the morning of the event, a delivery arrived at her doorstep. White lilies and a card in familiar handwriting. Inside it read, Happy 80th. Let's see if your perfect family still smiles after tonight. Mom nearly fainted when she saw it. Grandma just pressed her lips together and said, We're not canceling. Fear is what she wants. So we went ahead pretending to be calm. The sun dipped low over Grandma's backyard. Kids chased bubbles, and for a fleeting moment, it almost felt like old times. Aunt Susan laughed again for the first time in months. Dad was pouring lemonade when I noticed Grandma's expression freeze. She was looking toward the gift table. There, wrapped in plain brown paper, was a photo album with no tag. Grandma opened it slowly. Inside were our family pictures, weddings, holidays, baby photos, each one vandalized. Faces slashed with black marker. Over the first page, someone had written in thick red ink, Family disappointment. The air turned cold. The laughter stopped. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. That's when she appeared, Lauren, standing near the back door, wearing a floral dress like she was part of the celebration. For a second, no one moved. Then Grandma Olivia stepped forward, her voice shaking but steady. Lauren, she said softly, you've hurt everyone who ever loved you. Please leave and get help. Lauren laughed. A hollow manic sound. Get help? From you? The woman who raised liars. Mom started to cry. Dad moved toward her, but Lauren reached for the cake, that beautiful lemon cake Grandma had made herself, and slammed her fist straight into it. Yellow frosting splattered across the tablecloth, the floor, Grandma's dress. Lauren screamed. You all act like I'm the problem, but you're the ones who shut me out. Tommy started crying again. Aunt Susan grabbed him, pulling him close. Dad and my uncle tried to hold Lauren back as she flailed, kicking over the gift table. Plates shattered. The room filled with shouts and sobs. Then, like a storm breaking, she yanked free and bolted out the side door. For a moment, none of us spoke. Grandma just stood there, frosting dripping from her sleeve, staring at the mess her granddaughter had made. She whispered, No more birthdays. Ryan, who had been standing quietly near the corner the whole time, stepped forward and raised his phone. I recorded everything, he said. His voice was calm, but his hands trembled. Every word, every threat, every scream. You finally have proof. That night, we all sat in the living room listening to the recording. Lauren's voice filled the space like poison. The threats, the rage, the twisted justifications. It wasn't just a meltdown. It was evidence of a pattern, proof of the darkness we'd been living with. Grandma looked at the phone, then at all of us. "Enough," she said. "We protect this family now. No more hiding. No more excuses." And for the first time I believed her. Because even though Lauren had tried to ruin everything, what she didn't know was that Ryan's recording had finally turned the tide. 3 days after Grandma's birthday disaster, Ryan filed for a restraining order. He'd finally had enough. The late-night calls, the threats, the fake pregnancy messages, the endless manipulation. "I'm done living in fear of my own phone buzzing," he told me when we met for coffee. His voice was calm, but there was a quiet exhaustion behind it, the kind that comes after surviving a long storm. I remember thinking that, for once, someone had stood up to Lauren and refused to be pulled back in. Then, on the third morning after he filed, it happened. Just after 8 a.m., I got a call from Mom. Her voice shook. "Emily, they've arrested Lauren." At first, I thought she meant local police again, another trespassing, another outburst. But it wasn't that. It was the FBI. They had traced multiple online threats to a sitting Congresswoman, violent messages sent from fake accounts, all linked to Lauren. Apparently, she'd been running a network of burner profiles for years, targeting not just family and ex-boyfriends but strangers, journalists, and even small business owners she thought had wronged her. When agents raided her apartment, they found hard drives labeled with people's names, spreadsheets of usernames, screenshots, and plans. It wasn't chaos. It was methodical cruelty. The story hit local news within hours. Seattle woman arrested in multi-year cyber harassment case. Watching it unfold felt surreal. They said she'd harassed hundreds of victims across multiple states, impersonating, defaming, and threatening anyone who crossed her path. For all her talk about being honest, Lauren had built her own empire of lies. The courtroom scene weeks later was painfully quiet. She looked smaller somehow, no smirk, no defiance, just a hollow stare as the judge listed the charges. Cyberstalking, identity theft, criminal harassment, interstate threats. She barely flinched when the sentence came down. 5 to 7 years in federal prison and restitution to her victims. Aunt Susan cried. Not out of pity but relief. CPS officially closed her case the same week. She was finally cleared. Her name and record restored. I'll never forget the moment she hugged Tommy outside the courthouse. He asked, "Mom, does this mean the bad lady's gone now?" And she smiled through tears and said, "For a while, honey. For a good while." That night, our family group chat was quiet. No one knew what to say. How do you grieve someone who's still alive but has burned every bridge to ash? I found out later that Ryan had started seeing someone. Sarah, my coworker and friend. She was gentle, grounded, the opposite of Lauren in every way. When he told me, he sounded hesitant, almost guilty. "I just want something normal," he said. I smiled and told him the truth. "I don't blame you. You deserve peace." And I meant it. There was no anger left in me, only a strange emptiness. The kind that follows a long nightmare when you finally wake up and realize the house is still standing. The family Lauren tried to destroy was still here. Aunt Susan got her job stability back. Grandma's health improved, and even my mom started laughing again. We weren't perfect, maybe we never were, but we'd learned something vital. Sometimes cutting someone out of your life isn't cruelty. It's survival. As I packed away the thick folders Dad had made, the crime board, as I used to call it, I paused at one of Lauren's old photos. She was smiling, holding a birthday balloon, maybe 20 years old. Before the bitterness, before the spiral, I tucked it back in the envelope, not out of nostalgia but closure. The damage was done, but so was the fear. And for the first time in years, I felt like maybe, just maybe, peace wasn't an illusion. It was just the quiet that comes after you finally stop expecting an apology that will never come. 1 year later, we found ourselves back at the same arcade where everything had fallen apart. The flashing lights, the sound of bowling pins, the laughter of kids echoing through the air. But this time there was no tension hiding beneath the surface. No one glancing over their shoulder wondering if Lauren would show up. The chaos had finally quieted. It was Tommy's 7th birthday. He'd grown taller, his hair a little longer, his smile brighter, the kind of brightness that comes only when a child feels safe again. Aunt Susan had planned everything herself. No catering, no store-bought cakes, no fancy themes. Just a few friends from Tommy's school, some balloons, and a homemade T-Rex cake she baked the night before. I watched her nervously adjusting the frosting. It leaned a little to one side, and one of the dinosaur's eyes was sliding down the face. But Tommy didn't care. When she carried the cake out, holding it like something fragile and precious, his whole face lit up. He gasped, "Mom, it's perfect." Aunt Susan froze for a second, tears welling up behind her smile. She laughed and said, "Even with the crooked eye?" Tommy nodded with absolute certainty. "Especially because of the crooked eye." Everyone laughed, the kind of laughter that shakes off years of weight. Grandma Olivia clapped from her chair, her voice steady again. My dad, usually so serious, joined the kids at the air hockey table. My mom took pictures of everything, determined to document this new version of our family. A version that had survived the storm. I stood off to the side watching them and felt a stillness I hadn't known in years. The last time we were in this place, I'd been filled with shame, anger, and disbelief. Now there was just warmth, the kind that settles deep and stays. "For the first time in years," I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else, peace didn't feel boring. It felt like a miracle. Sarah and Ryan showed up a little later, hand in hand. I saw Aunt Susan glance their way, her expression softening. Whatever tension remained had faded long ago. Time had done its slow, quiet work. Ryan knelt beside Tommy, offering him a wrapped box. "Open it, buddy." Inside was a small hand-painted wooden T-Rex, bright green and smiling. "I made it with my students," Ryan said. "Figured you could add it to your collection." Tommy grinned. "It's even better than the one on the cake." Sarah laughed. "That's because it's not melting." The room filled with easy laughter again. The sound of people finally learning how to breathe after too long underwater. Even the arcade's chaos, the ping of basketball hoops, the clatter of tokens, felt comforting now, part of a rhythm we could live with. Later, when the lights dimmed for the cake candles, everyone gathered close. Aunt Susan's hands trembled slightly as she lit them. The flames flickered, small and stubborn. Tommy closed his eyes, made his wish, and blew them out. The smoke curled upward, soft and gray, disappearing into the glow of the neon signs. For a moment everything stood still, the laughter, the lights, the smell of frosting and wax. Then someone started clapping and the spell broke. Kids shouted, adults joined in, and the noise rose like music. As the night ended, Aunt Susan hugged me tightly. "Thank you for sticking with me," she whispered. I hugged her back. "You did all the hard parts," I said. "You kept believing things could get better." She smiled. And they did. We packed up slowly, the kids running around chasing leftover balloons. Grandma waved from her seat near the window, her face calm. As we walked out into the cool Seattle night, I looked back at the arcade one last time. The neon lights reflected off the windows, blurring into soft shapes. A little messy, a little imperfect, but alive. And in that moment, I realized something simple and profound. Sometimes peace doesn't arrive in grand gestures or perfect endings. Sometimes it's just the sound of children laughing, the taste of homemade cake, and the quiet certainty that the worst is finally behind you. The camera would have faded out there, on the sound of laughter, the glow of lights, the sight of a family mending. Because after everything we'd lost, normal wasn't just enough. It was everything. Looking back now, I've realized that surviving my sister's chaos taught me more about people and myself than any self-help book ever could. For years, I mistook Lauren's behavior for honesty. I told myself that maybe she was just blunt, that maybe we were too sensitive. But the truth is simple. Brutal honesty isn't honesty. It's cruelty dressed as confidence. When someone takes pleasure in tearing others down and calls it being real, they're not courageous. They're hiding behind words to justify their lack of empathy. The second lesson came slowly through pain and guilt. Family loyalty should never mean tolerating abuse. We're raised to believe that blood ties are sacred, that we must forgive endlessly, that cutting someone off is betrayal. But it's not. Setting boundaries doesn't make you disloyal. It makes you healthy. Love without limits isn't love. It's self-destruction. Then there's silence. We used to think ignoring Lauren's cruelty would make her stop, that not engaging was the high road. But all it did was give her more room to grow bolder. Silence enables the entitled to grow louder. When you don't speak up, they take it as permission. It took a long time, and a lot of damage, For us to realize that staying quiet was just another way of letting her win. The fourth truth is one I wish we'd learned sooner. Evidence matters. Even love needs boundaries. For too long, we brushed off the warning signs because she was family. But when you start documenting, when you start holding someone accountable for their actions, you draw a line between emotion and reality. That line can save you, can protect everyone you love. And finally, the lesson that changed everything for me. Peace is not boring. It's freedom from chaos. For years I confused drama with life, thinking calm meant emptiness. But peace, real peace, is being able to breathe without waiting for the next explosion. It's not dull. It's divine. 1 year later, when I saw Tommy blow out his candles and smile like the world was finally safe again, I realized something profound. Peace doesn't announce itself. It just arrives quietly, waiting for you to stop chasing storms. If you've ever had to walk away from someone toxic, know this: you didn't lose peace, you reclaimed it. It takes courage to say, no more. Especially when the person you're walking away from shares your blood. But sometimes, loving someone means loving yourself enough to let them go. And if this story resonated with you, take a moment, reflect on your own boundaries, your own peace. Maybe it's time to stop calling survival overreacting. Maybe it's time to protect your calm like it's the most valuable thing you own. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that remind us. Sometimes the biggest victory isn't revenge or confrontation. It's simply choosing calm over chaos.